Okay, we're coming into the home stretch here. We've got 3 sessions left, and I want to invite Igor Livitz to the stage, who's founder and, well, I think he's the technologist that makes Andrew look good in most of his efforts. And Igor is going to share with us a little bit from the CTO side of Convergence, his perspective. So.
All right. While they're putting my presentation on, I'll start talking about my background. I'm sorry. While they're trying to get my presentation on the screen, I will start talking about my background. And my background is technical. I work as developer, software architect, and development manager, both in Louisville and Silicon Valley. I remember visiting Silicon Valley first time, like in early 20s, my early 20s, which is obviously was a while ago. And I met a friend there, and he said, "You're overdressed for Silicon Valley engineer." And I said, "How come? I'm just wearing t-shirt and shorts." And he said, "You have a clean t-shirt." And this is my excuse for not wearing tie today. I don't want to be overdressed. Anyway, okay, thank you. Anyway, I was obviously involved in many projects, some of them more successful than others. But in terms of having fun projects, once I was involved in Andrew was one of the most exciting ones. And I know Andrew for a long time, so it's always fun to work with him because he has always fresh perspective and ideas. Anyway, today my topic is blockchain in gaming. I will talk about opportunities, how it can be applied, or high-level, obviously, perspective, and challenges. So let's go to the next slide. I think that one of the kind of obvious areas where blockchain can be and should be applied in gaming is tracking of the resources. Because, it's surprising for many people, but there are millions of people, developers, graphic artists, just hobbyists involved in digital economy from gaming perspective. They create characters, weapons, they sell them, they exchange them, they enhance them, and there is always problem with ownership and problem with running those transactions securely. So I think that it's one of the natural applications of blockchain in this space. So we want to have ownership records, we want to know history of any artifact, and by using blockchain, by using that permanent record distributed through, throughout the world, I can say that we provide gamers and developers with full ownership of what they create or what they bought. Okay. Another application of blockchain, user profiles, obviously. You probably know multiple websites, multiple games where you create a profile and it cannot be transferred to another profile. You don't own your identity, let's put it this way. And it's natural for someone to have this profile permanently created and belonging to you through, by owning your private key. And you own your identity. You can use this identity, and you can have multiple profiles, obviously, in multiple games, and it's another natural application of the blockchain technology in gaming. Okay, next I would like to talk about in-game currency. It's not a new concept. It's been around for a long time. But I think that marrying it to blockchain, our modern incarnation of digital money, make it real. And make it real in the sense that, I mean, if it's based on some common standards like RFTU20, I mean, if you're talking about Ethereum, it can be easily supported by multiple wallets, I mean, third-party wallets. It can be easily, given, of course, agreement, sold and bought on multiple exchanges. I mean, it's easy from technical perspective. Of course, you have to go through hoops to list it there. So basically, it's becoming very real. You earn money through the game participation or from developing and selling artifacts, and you can exchange to different coins, different, like, you know, maybe you want to turn it into Bitcoins or Ethereum, or you can exchange it to fiat, and it's very smooth. I mean, it's why I call it, it's becoming a real money. And talking about that topic, again, we just, a few days ago, or maybe it was, yeah, I think a few days ago, we deployed smart contract on the Ethereum network for our Droid coin. We had our Genesis event. We generated tokens. And again, interesting about blockchain, if you make a mistake, it stays forever. So we were very careful in developing that smart contract, and we basically work with Keith Trior team. I mean, one of the Keith Trior team. I mean, you had his presentation this morning, and we had this presentation this morning. A company called ICO Box. I think he's either a chairman or advisor there. So the team is just totally focusing on helping startups like Convergence to make sure that everything is kosher as far as smart contract is concerned, generating coins and so forth. And they help with other aspects as well. So it's again, now in-game currency is real money. And it's up to, obviously, to developers and community to make it valuable. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit more obscure topics. I think that blockchain, I mean, again, it can be used and applied in different ways. One of the ways in the gaming world, you can build fully decentralized games. And the most famous example, CryptoKitties. And CryptoKitties is totally decentralized. It lives on Ethereum platform. And of course, it's limited in many respects and for many reasons. But again, it's an example of fully decentralized game. In case of Convergence, I mean, again, we're not talking about some simple game. So I think that, I mean, and it cannot, because we have, I mean, we're talking about engines like Unreal and so forth. They require very powerful servers. They cannot totally live and distribute the world on blockchain. But a blockchain, at least in the future, if we're talking about our future vision, can be used even in this respect as a glue to get all this platform together. And of course, I'll qualify it because it doesn't sound very concrete. Okay, one of the goals on Convergence eventually, I mean, it's long term because I mean, it's a very complicated task, to allow not only use multiple devices from powerful workstations to little bitty smartphones as platforms to play against each other. We're even talking about using different engines. And you have some engines which kind of geared more mobile devices. We have engines which supposed to have powerful workstations. And And in the long time, long-term vision is concerned, we want to be able to everybody plays against everybody. And to achieve that, you need to have some kind of synchronizations between engines. But again, imagine situations that in one engine, you blow a rocket ship, but because of latency, somebody about the same time tried to fly the ship away. How you solve this problem? I mean, if you think about this, it's very similar to a situation with double spent transaction. When you have like Bitcoin, in general, you went through, you have $50 in your account, you try to send $50 to one guy, and it goes to one server, and then quickly you send the same $50 to someone else. And again, it's double spent issue. And it's what is blockchain about. It's what all this consensus, of course, there are different consensus algorithms are about. So it's the same here. You use consensus algorithm to figure out which events happened first, which second, and make sure that they do not contradict each other. So it's our long-term vision to use that as a glue between different engines. But of course, it requires a lot of scalability and requires very good latency. And I'm going to talk about that in next slide. And of course, there are well-known issues. First of all, it's so quickly evolving technology. We don't even cannot call blockchain a technology. It's a set of technologies and different consensus mechanisms, different implementations. There's so much going on in this space. But most of platforms have the same type of issues. I'm sorry, Nicholas. The most glaring issues, they're not scalable enough yet, and everybody's trying to get there. And we have about latency, not fast enough. I think that's the biggest problem everybody's complained about. And some of the blockchain are solving this problem better than others, but it's still an issue. So I think that if you want to use blockchain in gaming, you have to be very practical, because you cannot build hoping that underlying technology will catch up, because you don't know when it happens. So, and how you want to be practical? You want to use technology for use cases it's capable of supporting. And I think that to me is a great example crypto exchanges. If somebody is familiar with, for example, with Coinbase, the most known crypto exchange in the United States. It's not really crypto exchange. You can buy coins using fiat. Binance, for example, is when you exchange pairs of coins. But if you're familiar with Coinbase, you may notice that when you buy Bitcoin or Ethereum, whatever, it's almost, instantaneous. It doesn't take any time. On that, if you think about this, you think how strange it is. Everybody's complaining about latency, that Bitcoin takes a long time, but it's so fast. On the other hand, if you ever try to send Bitcoins to external wallet, now you see the issue. It's very slow. It takes a long time to confirm. What's going on there? The answer is very simple. When you buy Bitcoins on Coinbase, you don't have any blockchain transactions at all. Basically, they have a big wallet where they keep their coins. And when you buy, they just create a record that you owe so many Bitcoins from that wallet. So it's a centralized system. Only when you want to send your Bitcoins to external wallet, real blockchain transaction takes place, and it's slow. So again, it's you have to be realistic. You have to understand the limitation of technology and use it properly. And in fact, it's what we think about doing, at least initially, with our application. When you deal with when you're going to deal with droids, I mean our token, or with assets inside of the game, you don't have to go through blockchain because it's not scalable yet. It's not fast enough. But you want to withdraw to external application. It's when you talk to Ethereum, when this happens. So again, question. So answer to all these problems, to this fast evolving world of blockchain and existing limitation, you have to be practical. You have to understand limitations. You have to work around it. Okay, let me look at time. Okay. So what else left here? Oops, I think it was, okay, it was the last slide. Do you guys have any questions you want to discuss? Something else? With respect to issues we covered? Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not sure I understand. It looked like you ended on a positive note, like we could solve a lot of the latency issue by maintaining it within the, could you explain that a little better? You said only when you do the transaction for funds outside it's slow, but within the ecosystem or what, it's going to be quick? I mean, what kind of speeds are we talking about?
Okay, again, what I'm trying to say is that you don't have to be religious about blockchain. Blockchain is a technology, it's a tool, and you have to know existing limitations. And again, to me, it's dangerous to build system hoping those underlying problems will be solved in the future. So if you see this limitation, work around it. And again, in case of and I gave you example of exchange. I mean, in exchange, when all this purchasing and selling happens, I mean, you don't even interact with blockchain or blockchains because, I mean, usually they support multiple blockchains, inside of those exchanges. So only when you have to send to external wallet, you have to initiate the transactions involving blockchain.
Do you have any idea about like number of transactions internally versus externally? I mean, is there?
Again, internally, it's based on your capacity, based on how well system is designed and how powerful the server are. But in terms of, if we're talking about blockchain, especially public blockchain, there are known limitations. And if I remember correctly, and it may have changed since that time, Ethereum supports like 10 transactions per second. Maybe it's changed. So and it's very, Ethereum is not, and it's not only 10, so scalability is speed. In game it might not be enough. So it's the reason why you want to combine best of both worlds until blockchain technology catch up in those aspects.
So building a component so that we can write above and then be able to, as we say, edge connector down into the technology.
Basically, again, we can, I think that in terms of design, it's a good approach. You introduce abstraction layer, and if underlying technology like blockchain improves, you don't have to work around it. Create workarounds.
We're seeing Hashgraph and a whole bunch of different technologies that may have the potential, but they're theoretical at current. So.
And the kind of component architecture is good thing regardless, because you don't know what kind of new and shiny things will be available tomorrow, and to able more or less smoothly to plug in something
philosophically,
else.
if we're solving the right problems for the consumer, we're putting on the blockchain the things like the transaction of virtual items where they do need to be have a trust network, whereas trying to track every bullet transaction inside of a first-person shooter may not be all that important to put onto the blockchain.
Yeah, philosophically it's close to the something that Amazon did, believe it or not. I mean, in a different field, obviously. I mean, we're not
Sure.
talking about blockchain, we're talking about Amazon services. I don't know whether if everybody's familiar with the story, but a while ago, Amazon decided, or rather Bezos, I guess, decided that all internal communications in terms of data exchange will happen through known, well-published interfaces. So, and I mean, it has so many benefits. I mean, it had a lot of, it caused a lot of headaches for Amazon developers, I'm sure. I mean, everybody hated it because it's too much work to have a formal kind of interface between different departments, between different systems. But it's improved quality of the system.
Right.
And it's make it modular, componized, and the interesting side effect that eventually Amazon was able to provide its service to public.
Right.
Open it up.
Yeah,
that,
that was Jeff having to throw down on that because there was a lot of internal, like, holding on to the way everybody was doing it.
Right.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
Okay.
that,
You're
Igor.
welcome.
And thank you for sharing that perspective.